Welcome to Rare Breed Brotherhood. Just because they don't see it doesn't mean you don't have it. There's a strange thing that happens when you don't try to prove yourself to the world. People start thinking there's nothing to prove. As a Sigma male, you're not chasing validation, attention, or applause. You operate from within, quietly, steadily. And that alone makes you invisible to the loud ones. They don't see your value because you don't hand it to them on a silver plate. You don't perform for recognition or sell pieces of yourself for approval. You're not dramatic. You're not in a constant loop of trying to be liked. And the world, for the most part, doesn't know how to value what it can't label, use, or predict. But make no mistake, your strength lies in that quiet power. You are the observer, the thinker, the one who moves in silence and strikes with precision. People overlook you because your presence doesn't scream. It resonates. And the few who can feel that depth, they never forget it. This is not the time to doubt yourself. The world may not applaud you now, but that doesn't mean you aren't shifting things beneath the surface. Keep building, keep watching, keep walking your path. Not everyone is meant to understand you. Some are only meant to witness you too late. Your value isn't lost. It's just not on display. And that's exactly how you've designed it. Stay sharp, stay silent, stay sovereign. Let's dive in deeper, brothers. Number 1, you don't perform your worth, you live it. In today's world, almost everyone's trying to put on a show. People feel like they have to talk louder, dress louder, and constantly prove they matter. Every day it's, look at me, like my post, see what I've done. It's a non-stop performance. But you don't play that game. You're not out here trying to convince the world of your value. You just live it. That throws people off. Because when someone doesn't advertise themselves, most people assume there's nothing to see. That couldn't be further from the truth. Your strength doesn't show up in grand entrances or loud conversations. It's in how you carry yourself when no one's watching. It's in how you stay grounded when others are begging for attention. Your worth is not a billboard. It's more like a blueprint, subtle, structured, and built into everything you do. Take this for example. You walk into a room and you don't speak much. While everyone else is eager to be heard, you're listening, you're observing. And before long, you know exactly who's real and who's pretending. You read people before they even realize they're being read. But because you're not loud about it, they overlook you. They don't realize you already see through the performance. And that's where the misunderstanding happens. People assume silence equals emptiness. But with you, it's the opposite. Your silence holds power. It holds clarity. You're not irrelevant. You're just not putting yourself on display for those who don't deserve access. So yes, you might not be the first person they notice. But you're the one they can't forget. You live your worth in a way that doesn't need spotlights. It shows up in how you move, how you think, how you handle chaos without making a scene. And eventually, they'll see it. But by then you'll be long gone, building, rising, thriving, quietly. Number 2, you walk away before they realize what they had. The truth is, people often don't recognize value unless it's screaming for attention. And since you're not the type to beg, explain, or keep proving yourself over and over again, they take your presence for granted, until it's gone. You don't threaten to leave. You don't drop hints. You don't wait around hoping they'll notice you're hurt. You simply observe. And once you see the pattern, once it becomes clear that your presence is being overlooked, disrespected, or used, you're out. No drama, no final speech, just silence. This confuses a lot of people. They think you're heartless. They say you're cold. But what they fail to understand is that you gave them chances. Quiet ones, subtle ones. You gave them your time, your energy, your loyalty. And they mistook it for something that would always be there. Take a friendship, for example. You support them through their struggles, answer their late-night calls, give advice that actually helps. But when you need something, they're nowhere to be found. They don't call, they don't ask. They assume you're strong enough to figure it out on your own. So one day, you stop calling, you stop showing up, you stop giving, and just like that, they start realizing who you really were. But it's too late. By the time people recognize the depth of your value, you've already left the table. You've already moved on to places where you are appreciated, where your silence is respected, not ignored. You don't leave because you're angry. You leave because staying no longer makes sense. And what hits the hardest? You never come back to prove a point. You let your absence speak louder than your presence ever did. That's power. That's self-respect. And the ones who never saw it, they will. One day, but not with you in the picture. Number 3, you're difficult to control. And control is their currency. Most people aren't looking for connection. They're looking for control. That's the real game. And when they can't figure out how to manage you, they try to label you instead. Distant, arrogant, cold, difficult. But the truth is, they're just frustrated because you don't respond the way others do. You don't fold under pressure. You don't say yes just to keep the peace. You don't explain yourself every time someone gets uncomfortable. That scares them, because people who crave control depend on being able to predict and influence others. But you're unpredictable. And that drives them crazy. They try guilt, doesn't work. They try praise, still doesn't work. They try to shame you or push your buttons, but you stay calm. You don't react. You don't swing wildly trying to defend yourself. That calmness is not weakness. It's power. It tells them, you don't own me. Let's say someone tries to manipulate you with emotional games. They give you the silent treatment, expecting you to chase. But you're okay with silence. You won't play into their tactics. That alone throws them off, because they're used to people who break under emotional pressure. This is why they often downplay your worth. They'll say things like, you think you're better than everyone, or you're too serious, or you're hard to talk to. But all they're really saying is, I don't know how to control you, and that bothers me. The truth is, you're not hard to understand. You're just not easy to manipulate. And in a world where control equals power, your resistance threatens their entire sense of importance. So they try to shrink you, but deep down, they know what's really happening. They're just not ready to admit that you are free, and they are not. Number 4, you don't compete, and that breaks their game. Most people are stuck in a constant race. Who's richer? Who's more popular? Who got there first? Who's the loudest, the trendiest, the most liked? Life for them is turned into a scoreboard, and they've tied their self-worth to where they rank on it. But you're not even playing. You're not interested in trying to beat anyone. You're not looking over your shoulder to see who's ahead. You're too focused on your own lane. And that right there shakes people up more than you realize, because when you refuse to compete, you strip their game of meaning. You see, people who base their value on being better than someone else need others to keep chasing. They need someone to compare themselves to, but you're not giving them that. You're not running their race. You're walking your own path, on your own terms, and at your own pace. Let's say someone shows off their new car, hoping for praise or maybe even envy. You just smile and keep it moving. Not because you don't appreciate nice things, but because you don't measure your life by what someone else owns. That quiet confidence throws them off. They were expecting a reaction. You gave them peace instead. You're not dismissive, you're just not reactive. And that unsettles people who've built their identity around winning, outperforming, or being noticed. They don't know how to handle someone who doesn't need to be first. They don't understand how you can be calm when everyone else is racing to prove something. Your refusal to compete exposes something deeper. It forces people to ask themselves, if I'm not better than someone else, then who am I? And the truth is, most people don't know. That's why they try to mock your quiet path. But deep down, they envy it, because real peace is found when you stop competing and start living. Number 5, you intimidate them without trying. You don't have to say much. You don't have to act tough. Just your presence is enough to make some people uncomfortable. And it's not because you're loud or aggressive. It's because you carry something they can't fake: depth. While others are busy putting on masks, curating personalities, and trying to impress, you're just being yourself, fully, quietly, unapologetically. And that kind of authenticity, it shakes people who haven't done the inner work. You're not trying to make anyone feel small, but when you walk into a room calm, grounded, and fully aware of who you are, it highlights something they've been avoiding: their own lack of substance. You make them feel exposed without ever saying a word. Let's say you're in a group conversation. While others are talking over each other, trying to dominate the spotlight, you just listen. You think before you speak. And when you finally do, your words cut through the noise. Not because you are trying to impress, but because they came from a place of clarity. That makes insecure people uneasy. They'll start picking at you, calling you too serious, too quiet, too intense. But the truth is, they're not reacting to you. They're reacting to what you make them feel about themselves. They could rise to your level. They could try to grow. But that takes work. And for many, it's easier to tear down what they don't understand than to step up and meet it. So they mock your silence. They question your confidence. They act like you're the problem. But deep down, they feel the gap. You don't need to intimidate anyone. Your stillness does it for you. And the ones who get it, they respect it. The rest, they project what they're afraid to face in themselves. And none of that has anything to do with you. Number 6, you never chase, and they've never been taught to value what doesn't chase them. Most people have been conditioned to believe that love, attention, and care must come wrapped in pursuit. If someone's not constantly texting, calling, showing up, or bending over backward to keep your attention, then they must not care. That's the mindset they've grown up with. Affection equals chasing. But you don't play that way. You know your value. You know what you bring to the table. So you don't feel the need to chase anyone, not in relationships, friendships, or even opportunities. You let things unfold naturally. You show up with presence and honesty, but you never run after what doesn't recognize your worth. That confuses people. They start thinking you're cold or distant. They say you're too detached. But they don't realize this. You care deeply. You just don't base your care on desperation. Let's say you're getting to know someone and things start to feel one-sided. You pull back, not out of anger, but out of clarity. You don't send long paragraphs trying to explain your worth. You don't beg for attention. You simply step back, and in doing so, you silently ask one powerful question. Do you value me when I'm not chasing you? And most times the answer is no. They've been trained to only respond to effort when it comes with urgency. They confuse obsession with love. But you operate from a place of peace, not panic. That makes you rare. People often don't know how to hold on to something that doesn't chase them, because they're addicted to the thrill, not the connection. But here's the truth. The real ones will never need you to chase. They'll meet you halfway. They'll recognize the calm strength in your stillness. And they'll know that when you stay, it's because you chose to, not because you had to. Number 7, you don't broadcast your scars. You grow from them in silence. Pain changes people. For some, it becomes a performance. They share every wound, every setback, every heartbreak, not to connect, but to be seen. These days, suffering has become a brand. The more public your pain, the more applause you get. But you've never needed that. You don't post your breakdowns. You don't tell the world when you're hurting. You sit with it. You wrestle with it. You face it alone. Not because you want to suffer in silence, but because healing is personal. Deep down, you know that growth doesn't always need an audience. You've been through things that could have easily turned into a sob story. You've had moments that would have earned you sympathy and validation, likes and comments, but you chose strength over attention. And in doing so, you became invisible to a world that doesn't know how to honor quiet resilience. Let's say you were betrayed by someone close to you. You didn't run to social media. You didn't gather a pity party. You sat with that pain. You learned from it. And when you returned to the world, you came back sharper, calmer, and wiser, without ever explaining what happened. And that's what sets you apart. You don't use your wounds to manipulate people. You don't beg for support with sad stories. You transform in the dark and reappear whole. That confuses people, because they don't see the struggle. They assume you've had it easy. They don't understand how someone so composed could have been through so much, but you're not here to prove anything. You're here to grow. In a culture that rewards oversharing and emotional theatrics, your quiet healing is misunderstood, but it's also powerful. You don't wear your pain as a costume. You wear it as armor, and it shows even when you never speak a word. Number 8, you're not predictable. And people crave consistency over truth. Most people feel safe when they can define you. They want to put you in a box, give you a label, and expect you to act according to that label forever. It makes them feel in control, but you're not built like that. You're not here to play one role for life. You evolve, you shift, you grow. And that makes people uncomfortable. They say things like, "You've changed," as if that's a bad thing, but why wouldn't you change? Growth is the whole point. You're not interested in being stuck in an outdated version of yourself just so others can feel secure. One day you're deep into your creative side. The next you're focused on building something that requires discipline and silence. You go where your soul leads. You don't owe anyone an explanation for outgrowing what no longer fits. Let's say you used to be the person who always said yes, always showed up, always gave your energy to others, and now you protect your peace. You say no more often. You choose solitude. Suddenly people start saying you're acting different, but they're not reacting to your truth. They're reacting to their lack of control over your narrative. Predictability is comfortable, but it's rarely honest. The world wants to understand you through shortcuts, but you can't be reduced to a type. You don't play by the script, and that leaves people guessing. It bothers them that they can't figure you out, not because you're being fake, but because you're being real, and reality is complex. You refuse to flatten yourself to fit into someone else's idea of who you should be. And that alone makes you rare. You're not inconsistent, you're just alive. You're growing, adapting, and shifting with purpose. And that truth, it's more powerful than any label they'll ever try to put on you. Number 9, your self-respect isn't flexible, and they resent that. Most people don't really know who they are without the approval of others. They bend, shrink, shapeshift, anything to be liked, accepted, or included. But you don't play that game. You'd rather walk alone than change your core just to be part of something that doesn't feel right. You don't talk just to be heard. You don't follow trends just to blend in. And you definitely don't lower your standards to make people more comfortable. That kind of discipline, it's rare. And yes, it makes some people quietly resent you. Why? Because you're a mirror. You reflect what they wish they had the strength to do. While they compromise to keep the peace or stay liked, you stand firm, not with aggression, not with pride, just with quiet clarity. Let's say you're in a group where gossip is the norm. Everyone joins in to feel included, but you don't. Not because you're trying to be different, but because it doesn't sit right with you. You stay silent or you walk away. Suddenly they label you too serious or judgmental. But deep down they just can't understand how you're able to hold your ground without flinching. They call you stubborn, difficult, or cold. But the truth is, you just won't water yourself down to make others feel taller. You'd rather be misunderstood than diluted. Because once you start folding to fit in, you lose pieces of yourself along the way. And you know that. This is why some people keep their distance. You're not someone they can easily influence or mold. And for those who survive on control or fake closeness, your integrity feels like a wall they can't climb. But stay that way. Because in a world full of followers, the one who stands on solid ground, even alone, always commands quiet respect, even from those who pretend not to see it. Number 10. You observe more than you speak, and people hate being seen. Most people talk to be heard. They talk to be liked, to fill space, or to distract from what they're really feeling. But you don't speak unless there's something real to say. You watch, you listen, you study what's not being said, and that makes people nervous. You notice tone. You catch shifts in body language. You remember details others overlook. And while the world is busy performing, you're quietly watching everything unfold. That's where your power lives. Not in the spotlight, but in your awareness. And here's the part that rattles people. You see through the act. You can tell when someone is smiling but anxious. You know when a compliment is fake. You sense when a person's confidence is just a fragile mask. Most people don't even know how transparent they really are, until they're around someone like you. Let's say someone is constantly bragging, always trying to prove something. You don't argue or try to outshine them, you just watch. And deep down they start feeling exposed. Not because you said anything, but because your silence makes them wonder if you already figured them out. And usually, you have. This is why some people avoid you or get oddly defensive around you. Not because you're confrontational, but because your energy feels like an X-ray. They can feel you seeing what they try hard to hide. You don't humiliate anyone. You don't announce what you know. But your quiet presence speaks louder than any words. It says, I see you, the real you. And not everyone is ready for that level of honesty. Most people are scared of being seen, even when they say they crave connection. Because true connection means being transparent, and not everyone is built for that. But you are. You don't need to say much. The truth already sits in your eyes. Number 11. You don't need fixing, and that ruins their savior complex. There's a strange kind of power some people crave, the power of being needed, not loved, not respected, needed. They like feeling useful, important, like they're saving someone. It boosts their ego to be the helper, the healer, the one who rescues the broken. But when they meet you, everything about that dynamic falls apart, because you're not broken. You're not walking around with open wounds looking for someone to patch you up. You've done the hard work, faced your demons, owned your past. You've taken responsibility for your healing, your growth, your peace. And that makes you dangerous to people who only know how to relate through fixing others. They try to find cracks in you, flaws they can swoop in and solve. They look for weakness they can use to make themselves feel stronger. But what they find instead is someone who's already whole. Someone who's already steady without their help. Let's say you meet someone who loves being the fixer. At first they're curious about you, but when they realize you don't need saving, their interest fades. Not because you did anything wrong, but because they have no role to play in your story. And without that role, they feel small. You don't hand out emotional chaos for people to clean up. You don't spill your wounds to get attention. And you don't rely on others to carry your weight. That level of emotional independence, it's rare. And it makes some people deeply uncomfortable. They can't wrap their heads around the idea that connection doesn't have to come from pain. That love can exist between two whole people, not just savior and saved. But you're not here to make others feel important by playing small. You're here to build, not be rebuilt. And if someone can't meet you as an equal, they're not meant to walk beside you. In conclusion, sometimes the brightest stars are missed because they don't make noise. They just shine. If you've ever felt unseen, overlooked, or misunderstood, let this sink in. It's not because you lack value. It's because you don't put your value on display for cheap attention. You don't perform it. You live it. And in a world obsessed with surface-level validation, that kind of authenticity gets ignored until it's too powerful to deny. As a Sigma male, you move different. You're not trying to impress anyone. You don't operate on borrowed opinions. You think for yourself, act from your own compass, and stand in silence when others shout just to feel important. That's silence. It's not emptiness. It's self-possession. It's depth. And yes, it intimidates people who haven't built that within themselves. They don't see your value because they're trained to look for performance, not presence, for applause, not substance. But trust this. Real ones recognize real energy. It just takes time. The world might not clap for you right now. You might not get the spotlight, the likes, or the validation others chase like oxygen. But none of that means you're losing. It means you're building something rare, a life rooted in truth, not trends. And when they finally look back, trying to figure out how you stayed grounded while everyone else was chasing noise, they'll realize you weren't missing. You were just untouchable. Keep your head clear. Keep your heart steady. Keep walking in your own lane, even if no one understands it yet. Because the ones who truly matter won't just see your value. They'll feel it. And when they do, you won't need to explain a thing. You'll already be miles ahead. Stay solid, stay unseen, stay unstoppable. Thank you for watching.